Hey, folks, welcome to InTheMoneyStocks.com's intraday analysis video, brought to you by the creators of proprietary price, pattern, and time methodology. Learn the PPT strategies and profit for life. Let's get into today's action on this Monday, September 29th, 2014. Markets are in sell mode today, although as you can see, well off their lows. S&P down 6, Dow down 66, NASDAQ down 11 on the day. Now, what's causing this little bit of a down move? Well, we're obviously seeing a little bit of fear building from the issues in China and in Hong Kong. So, if you guys have been watching the news, you've seen a lot of protesters out in the streets in Hong Kong. And the big question is are we seeing some sort of kind of Arab Spring event there like we saw in the Middle East where people are demanding democracy, and what will come from that? Will there be a lot of violence? Will there be actually any change? And that fear is making the markets a little uneasy. Also, if you heard about Ukraine and Russia today and the Russian-backed separatists, we did see and hear that there were some uprising issues there, some firing after the truce was initiated and so forth. So there are a couple issues there as well that are taking place. And I think it's just kind of in this environment right now, markets are a little skittish. I mean, we know the Fed is going to be raising interest rates at some point in 2015. We see some issues all around the globe, conflicts arising, and people definitely are getting more and more nervous about holding stocks long. So therefore, we have seen a little bit of a back off on the S&P and the Dow and the NASDAQ just over the last week or so. That culminated last Thursday with about a 300-plus point drop on the Dow. We saw a snapback on Friday, and then obviously a gap down today. But please notice on the gap down. So notice the gap down gapped below the lows of Thursday here, but please notice how we closed back above. So you never got to close below that low, and that was a bullish signal. And that's one of those signals that you have to be very aware of. By the way, I gave you guys a option trade on Friday, folks, and this was a good one on SWN. And I want to revisit that so we can kind of summarize. And this was a great options play, guys. And look at SWN today, up 22 cents. And the reasoning behind the option trade here was very, very simple. All right, you can see right here a major amount of support. Pivots, 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 pivots all the way across. And again, lows all the way to this area. So I bought some calls on this. I bought 100 calls at $1 for the October expiration at a strike of $35. And right now I'm actually looking to move out of them, and I'm trying to get filled right here. We'll see if I get filled right here, but I am trying to move out of them for about a 20-cent gain, which would be about a 20% gain on a dollar entry. All right, so again, just a heads up there. That's what I am trying to do at this point in time. I'm actually have my sell order at $1.22, so it would be a 22-cent gain. But again, I think the logic here is that most likely I will get filled, and hopefully we will here within just
Order filled.
Oh, speak of the devil, there it is. All right, guys, so I'm out of my SWN calls for 22% profit in basically one day from holding them from Friday into today, and I gave you guys that trade. I repeat, I gave you guys that trade on Friday in this video. When I took it, you could have gotten it at that entry from Friday, or even better, as well as even as low as 101 today, which is 1 penny above my entry. So awesome stuff there. All right, a couple other things to go over. GoPro, the CEO was just on CNBC. They just launched a new product or multiple products today. This stock is unbelievable. I've very rarely seen a company of this size, which is now $10 billion, make this type of move. The one thing I'd like to draw your attention to is this. For those of you that have been within themoneystocks.com and are currently with us and you've taken my webinar, you know that this is a three-tail theory, and look at the fall you got off of it. And then please direct your attention to this possible bearish pattern here. All right, notice how down move inside bar action. It's hugging the 20. This really starts to break down and confirm below the 20. It's going to go right here to the 50. And one thing of interest here, and listen, there's no guarantees, right? There's no guarantees that this is for sure the top, but a couple signals that tell me there's a possibility of it. Number one, the market is all about hype being the top. So they just launched this new camera, the cheapest one, and these other cameras as well. The CNBC interview this just minutes ago with the CEO, and that's so much hype. and usually the stock will, or stocks will top. We saw Tesla top out when Elon Musk came on CNBC, and again, we're watching here to see if this is. Also, on GoPro, look at the volume today, almost 16.5 million. Usually stocks will top out on final big moves on heavy volume, and one thing we can see very clearly here, this is the heaviest volume this stock has seen ever. All right, it's never seen this big volume, so it could be distribution going on there, which is another potential sell signal. So these are just little things that kind of get my attention on the charts. And obviously, the three-tail theory on a technical basis could be something of interest. Now, again, it may have no impact. Maybe this stock is 1 in a million and it just continues to grind up. That's always a possibility. But I do like to point out these factors to you guys in this video so you can kind of understand my thought process and what I'm starting to become aware of. All right, what else do we have here going on, folks? Looking at a couple other stocks out there. I've been interested in Hewlett-Packard as it's continued to be weak here, HPQ, on the daily chart. Look at this drop on HPQ. Isn't that amazing how it had this one final push up and then just collapse down? You actually do have a fair amount of support based on today's lows on this stock, though, so be aware of that. And again, let me just put that line in a little bit more accurately. There we go. So you can see hitting there and bouncing back just a little bit. So that's interesting to me. It also kind of matches up with this little pivot area over here as well. Do I think that stock is going to bounce? Most likely it'll have a couple-day bounce, but I actually think it's going to head lower down the line. All right, I definitely am in the camp on this market where I believe things will be a little bit more rough for this market. And I think you can see it from the volatility. I mean, I think out of the last 8 days, 8 trading days, we've had a 100-point move in the Dow on 6 of those days. So I mean, think about that. Think about that. I mean, that's pretty spectacular. Okay. All right. So that's what we have going on there, folks. And again, just an interesting little tidbit. Markets continue to be down, but ever so slightly on the day. Let's just go back and check some key things on the spiders here. Again, flipping back to the spiders down about 45 cents. We were down as much as $2 at the open, but again, have come back beautifully here. Taking a look at the currency market, the dollar is pulling back, but only very slightly today. And what we can see is the euro opened higher and sold off here, and the euro is just up a little bit on the day. I actually like the euro right now. I think that the ECB meeting later this week, where they're supposed to announce some QE type event, I think they will announce it, but the market has already factored it in, so you'll probably see a comeback on that. Okay, so that's interesting there. Gold, take a look at gold here, basically flat on the day. Silver's essentially there too, basically flat on the day as well on the SLV, and that's just telling us that the markets and the currencies are essentially flat, and that's what's going on there. Okay, all right, so that's that. Let's just take a look. GoPro's actually popping up again, so maybe I'm wrong. We'll find out here. And again, this is just more of a fun one to watch, and we'll see again where it ends up trading. Maybe it squeezes to 90 bucks by the close or above 90 bucks for all we know. But really a wild, unbelievable trading stock, that's for sure. I mean, to see this thing up, how many times in the last 3 weeks has it been up 5 to 10% every single day? Probably almost every single day. Okay, on that note, folks, I'm going to bid you farewell. Again, just a heads up, I sold the SWN out of the SWN, and then we'll see how it all goes from there. Take care, guys. Have a great afternoon, great evening. Talk to you soon.